A lethal congenital condition, Meckel Gruber syndrome, is a genetic mutation with a devastating array of effects for the fetus. Also known more simply as Meckel syndrome, the condition is autosomal recessive, meaning that it can only affect a fetus when both parents are carriers for the disorder. That is, when both parents are carriers for the condition, each time they attempt to conceive a child, there is a 25% chance that the fetus will be affected and, consequently, given its lethal nature, fail to survive. If the child is not affected, there is a 50% chance that he will be a healthy carrier for the condition, meaning he won't show any symptoms, and a 25% chance that he will be a healthy non-carrier. Meckel Gruber is heterogenetic and can result from mutations on various protein-encoding genes. Specifically, the mutation affects those proteins responsible for the structural and functional components of the cilia. A lesser-known organelle, the cilium is present on all eukaryotic animal cells and is critical for building bridges and transmitting signals from cell to cell, allowing for the development of tissues and organs. In cases such as Meckel Gruber, the cilia do not function properly and can then stunt and deform organ development in the fetus. The impacts of defective cilia can range in severity, but Meckel Gruber is the single most severe known ciliopathic condition. Because of the genetic variants of the condition, the phenotype is unique on a case-by-case basis, though there are notable commonalities that persist across all affected fetuses. The most significant symptom of the condition is severely inflamed polycystic kidneys, which then go on to crush the other organs and induce other symptoms such as cardiac anomalies and liver fibrosis. The fetus will also typically experience an underdeveloped or malformed skull caused by failure of the neural tube to completely close. This phenomenon, known as occipital encephalocele, causes tissue protrusions in the back of the skull, as well as the brain to leak into the amniotic sac. This oftentimes results in complete nervous system failure. Most Meckel cases will also feature a polydactyl state, that is, extra phalanges, on both hands and feet. Typically diagnosable via ultrasound between 10 and 13 weeks of gestation, Meckel Gruber is 100% lethal either in utero or immediately after birth. In the few instances in which the fetus is carried to term and delivered, it generally will not survive more than just a few hours. The child will require incessant medical attention for its short lifespan, though it will persist in a state of severe distress and illness throughout this time. Shortly thereafter, the child will enter a state of prolonged apnea and ultimately pass away. Once diagnosed during gestation, the only real treatment option of sorts includes termination, later miscarriage, or attempting to carry to term. The prodigious severity of the condition and evident lack of fetal viability point to the deep-rooted importance of genetic screening, particularly, but certainly not exclusively, in communities with high instances of autosomal recessive conditions. Meckel Gruber is especially prevalent in the consanguineous Gujarati Indian and Kuwaiti tribal communities, which tend not to breed outside of their immediate people. Interestingly, Finland also exhibits relatively high incidences of Meckel Gruber at about 1 in 9,000 births, though there are no such cases with documented consanguinity. Researchers believe this to be the result of an ancestral founder's effect, which is continually perpetuated in the phenotypically homogeneous population. The dire conditions and grim outlook associated with Meckel Gruber have far deeper societal implications, indicating the need to reform abortion laws and extend these options to the unfortunately affected families. Currently, 43 states in the U.S. prohibit terminations after a specified point in the pregnancy, typically around 20 weeks, unless continuing to do so would endanger the mother. Though Meckel is typically diagnosable towards the beginning of the second trimester, ample cases may go undiagnosed for several weeks after that point because of the lack of access to prenatal specialists, particularly in low-income and rural communities. Because Meckel poses no imminent risk to the mother, she would typically either travel to another state where she could terminate the inviable pregnancy, or otherwise be forced to carry to term and endure the associated physical and emotional burden. If born, there is a non-existent quality of life for the physically pained child, as well as an unfathomable emotional toll for the parents. But unfortunately, many states' abortion laws would effectively force such pain to ensue. By means of widespread genetic counseling prior to conception, of course, such measures can be avoided to their virtual entirety. Couples will be able to assess the risk factors and understand the probability of having an affected child, and if it is found that both parents are carriers, they may consider alternative options of family planning, such as in vitro fertilization, egg or sperm surrogacy, or adoption. Above all else, the condition indicates the need for widespread public health education about such diseases and the associated options for prevention, allowing for flourishing, happy, healthy families.